Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry, and we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben Magee with Green Can Cleaner, and I'm here with Mike Walker from Spiffybin. How are you today, Mike?
Hey, Ben. Good to see you. Doing well yourself?
I'm doing great. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What are we going to talk about today?
In your world? I thought we would talk about customer service and how it can end up being your competitive advantage.
I love it.
What you should consider doing and what you maybe should consider not doing, and how to make that work well for your business and whatnot. So, what do you think?
Sounds great. Yeah. So, our philosophy, and Lisa and I talk about this a lot, is that we are in the relationship business and we just happen to clean trash cans. And we tell our team members that constantly. And it seems like you just have to continue to remind them. But it's your job as an owner or a founder to make sure that you set that philosophy. So, with that, I think there are strategies for how you communicate with your clients, and as an owner or a founder, how you communicate with your team. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I think I have the same philosophy in that, we just need to do our jobs better than they can do them. And I think if we just do what I notice, at least when I've hired service people and, for the house and whatnot, is if we just communicate, we're 90% ahead of anybody else. If we tell them what's going to happen and then we deliver and then we told them what happened, I think we're winning at this game. And, making sure that the customer is number one. I came from the hospitality industry. In a previous life, I was a restaurant manager of a few different restaurants, and we were constantly training our servers, our bartenders, our wait staff, our bus boys, everybody, and even our kitchen staff. It was always make sure that you service your customer, and everybody has a different customer, but at the end of the day, we've got to make them all happy. So the cook's customer is the server, and they should interact well with the server. It shouldn't be argumentative or anything like that. And then the server obviously has a customer, and we have a customer. And so we've got a couple customers as business owners, and obviously we've got our regular clients, but we've got our staff when we decide to hire staff. So you've got to make sure everybody is 100% on board and happy where they're at. So I think communication's the biggest thing.
I would agree with that. And if you look at a lot of our reviews, which is the ultimate test, I believe, as to whether or not you're actually providing the customer service that you think you are. And if you look at our reviews, quite a few of them mention that we have excellent communication.
Right.
And
how much of that is you or your staff actually communicating, or is it the illusion of good communication because your CRM did most of the work?
Well, I think it's certainly the illusion to a certain extent, but it's also, I think, it's things like when something's out of the ordinary that we
Yes.
actually do communicate. And I mean, I can go back through the reviews and go, oh, yeah, this is when, we showed up and trash cans weren't there. And we communicated and said, hey, they're not here, instead of just hitting the charge button and driving off.
Hmm.
And I think that that makes a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. I think I look at it as minimizing I like to call them unforced errors. Like I don't play tennis, but I've watched a couple tennis matches, and they always talk about, the easy shot to the tennis player, and then they bury it in the net instead of just lobbing it over the net. Like they call it an unforced error, and I kind of think there's a lot of things in our business that we can minimize those unforced errors with communication. If we're not able to get there because the truck broke down or whatever, we've got to let them know. To just not show up and not tell them, it's not really acceptable, right? So that kind of thing. If you got a weather delay, we dealt with 2 weeks now of weather delays on our Saturday pickups. I sort of learned a little bit this weekend, and I'll go into it, I guess. We had a snowstorm, as they call it here. I'm from Western New York, where we get 120 inches a year. And down here in Atlanta, we get like two. But we got a big storm. We got 3 to 4 inches of powdery snow. Well, obviously, powdery snow turns into liquid during the day, and then it turns into ice for the next day. So I knew we weren't going to run on Saturday, so I let my people know, both my workers or my team members, and then I also let the people we were going to service know, my clients, that we weren't going to be out until Sunday. I probably should have known that we really weren't going to get out on Sunday either, because the temperatures were going to be like 19 degrees was the high. For some reason, I thought, well, maybe they're wrong. Maybe it'll be 26 and we'll still be able to go. And lo and behold, it was 19. And I said, well, I'll still go in and I'll try to run. I didn't want my guys to run because I didn't, they weren't comfortable on the ice, or I didn't want them to try it. And so I started to run, and then I realized everything's going to freeze up, and I'm causing a battle here that I don't want to fight, because the stuff will break or we'll leave water on the land. So I think learning maybe to pull the plug sooner and just communicating that it's okay. People understood. Nobody called back and said, I can't believe you're not coming today. Bah, 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 bah. But in my mind, I am so driven on great customer service and just delivering. I hate not being able to deliver when we told them we're coming. And even if it's not our fault, weather's not our fault, it still bothered me so much that I wasn't able to deliver. But we'll just push it off to next week, and it's okay. Um, how do you handle trying to get your team members to do the same type of mantra that you subscribe to?
I think that it starts in the hiring process. And we look for team members who are willing to communicate with us. And then as we do the training with them, a lot of times in home service businesses like ours, or, landscape pest control, there's a very limited training period. And it's almost, I think it feels, to a certain extent, it feels to these guys like, oh, yeah, there's the truck and go figure it out. And we don't do that. We actually have a training program that we've developed that emphasizes, look, this is who we are as a company. And we don't just talk about that. I mean, I've worked for companies, and probably everybody has, that, they say all this really great stuff when you get hired. And then when it comes down to it, they act different. And we don't do that. We take care of our guys. I mean, I'll tell you, last night there were two of our guys that were going to take the bus home. And I was like, no, just get in the truck. Let's go. And I'll take you home. And I think that communicating and going that extra mile and showing them that that's what we do for them, then they move that into doing that for our clients. And I get phone calls and text messages, not every day, but certainly every week, about something that one of our guys has done that is over the top, we've had guys that have fixed wheels on trash cans that they could have just wheeled them up and left it alone and thrown the wheel on top of the lid and said, "Hey, by the way, your trash can's broken."
Right,
Instead,
right.
they took the time to fix the can. And um, I think that it's important that we cultivate that as a business and we don't just expect that it's going to happen because a lot of people don't understand. I mean, the bar is low today. Like you said, just when just showing up surprises people, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And we see that
Well, there's a
a lot.
problem, but there's a huge opportunity. Like
Exactly.
that's the way I look at it too, right?
Right.
Is it's a huge opportunity.
Right.
Not having people wonder or replying to emails. There's times at 9:30 at night I jump on my phone before I go to bed. Do I want to do that? Maybe not. But I also know that these people are looking for an answer, and I don't, and I think I'm gonna have to do it in the morning anyways. Why not just do it tonight and let them know, yeah, well, you're on the list for tomorrow or whatever, whatever it is. And I think that's important, and I don't think that'll ever change, or it should never change, in my opinion. So
No. And so,
little actions go a long way.
right. So to that point, I mean, it seems like that just doing those things and providing even just basic customer service in today's marketplace actually gives you a competitive advantage. Is that the case?
I believe so. Yes. You referenced reviews, and when you see on the reviews, what did you like about it, and they have little check boxes or something. Communication's always there. Service is always there. Reliable is always there. Things like that are, at the end of the day, it's not a hard job and it's not a difficult job, but it's tedious and it requires a lot of moving parts that have to come together and stay together. And I think as an owner, not letting the little things go is going to help you in the future. If they can make the little things work well, then all the big things are going to come into line as well. And I think that's important. And you touched on a thing, taking care of your guys or your team members. We go out to lunch, I'd say once a month-ish. Not always as a group necessarily, but if I'm with one of the guys or different things like that, I'll take one guy out and then a couple weeks later another guy will go out or whatever. And I think those little things are nice. We always do a holiday party. We always try to get together in the summertime once. I've got a boat, so I like to share it with the guys periodically, and they can come out with me on that and different things like that. And I think those are important, and because at the end of the day, it's a little lonely at the top if you're not if you're not friendly with some people, right? I mean, when we worked at our jobs, we always had colleagues. We had 15, 20 people that were in the same position or whatever as us. You could shuck and jive in different things, but at the top, you don't necessarily have that. So I'm not saying you necessarily need to be chummy and best friends, but I think it's a nice, to create a family business. I think it's an okay thing.
Yeah,
As far
I
as
agree. And I
is
think that doing that also allows us to, and it's something that you and I have talked about. I don't want to be the cheapest in my market. And so, in order to justify that, I do need those reviews, and I need, if I'm going to justify my pricing and give value for that and have people perceive the value, then it's going to take some of those reviews and it's going to take just doing the right thing every time. I'll tell you a little story. I hired a guy and I actually talk about this in interviews with everyone that we hire. You know, this guy had come from a home service business and had that background and was pretty on the ball. And his first week on the job after he finished training, he'd gone and he'd cleaned the wrong cans at a house. And it was clear on the opposite end of the service area from our shop. And his last stop of the day, he cleans the wrong cans. The customer calls me, and it's been 15 minutes since he was there. and I tell the customer we'll be back. And it's getting late. And I call this
Mm-hmm.
guy and I say, hey, you cleaned the wrong cans at that, and that happens. But guess what? And he says, oh, we're going to put them on tomorrow. And I said, no, we're going back tonight, bud.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was shocked. But guess what? We got a 5-star review. The customer actually came out and gave him a tip because they were just shocked that we turned him around and, he was late getting home. Well, sorry, but that's part of the deal. And I've done that myself quite a few times. And I think that that's the part that gets the guys to start doing it is when they go, oh, you know what? Ben does this or Mike does this. It's not just that they're saying I have to do it.
Yeah.
And
And I
so,
think
yeah, I
it's
think that that is a competitive advantage. Go ahead, Mike.
absolutely, and I think you showcased it's not that you don't make mistakes, it's how you handle and react to the mistakes you make. Because everyone's going to make mistakes. I've cleaned the wrong bins. I've, done whatever, different things like that. I mean, it's going to happen, right? I mean, this is again a tedious job, but it's also a little numbing at various times. After you've done 35 stops, every stop for every house looks kind of the same, and I've had the situation where you look ahead like 15 houses and you see two bins, and in your mind those are the two bins. Well, you didn't see the two bins past it. You were going to those bins and you stopped, and did you look at the thing? Maybe, maybe not. Clearly if you did the wrong bins, you didn't look at the mailbox. But in fact, they were the next bins, and just in your mind that was that, and I've done it, and so you have to take a moment to slow down and you know, make sure you don't do that or double check things. And we can put things in place, but it's still going to have a mistake. So it's how you react and how you fix it that I think makes the biggest difference.
I,
So, yeah, and
I
I think,
agree. And I
go ahead.
think that the most important part of that is to not get defensive. You know,
Yeah.
I, the thing that I say a lot is the customer is not always right. As a matter of fact, the customer is usually wrong, but it doesn't matter because we're just going to make them happy.
Hmm.
And I think that that is the business philosophy that has allowed us to continue and grow in a tough market, in a tough business.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that that you say?
My thing is there's they have a hand, they being customers have a hand in the equation. I say that actually quite frequently. And what I mean by that is we can do everything right. We can let them know 2 days ahead about via email. We can let them know one day ahead via text. We don't do it often, but we could give them a "we'll be there in 10-minute" text. That becomes very tedious, and I don't want them to do that because they're usually going to be driving or moving at that time. So we don't really use that very much. But we could tell them that. They know already because we've been there the last 12 times on that day or whatever. And at the end of the day, they have a hand in the equation to make sure that their bins are available or out, or they answer the door to give them to us. And when that doesn't happen, at the end of the day, is it our fault? No. I mean, we've done everything we could do. In theory, we have the right to charge them and move on, like like you said before. But in reality, they get added to the next month, perhaps, or they get added to the next week. The way our scheduling is, it's set where we're back in that area usually the next week, the next day, so we can get that taken care of. But it is that a loss? Yeah, we're going to spend more money to go back a second time. But at the end of the day, it may in fact and usually does retain the customer, and they are overjoyed by it. But the hand in the equation is one line that I use quite a bit. And, but does that matter at the end of the day? No, because we've got to do our thing, and our thing is satisfying the customer. So I kind of say what you led off with a saying, and, mine is that we are a customer service company first, and then, we just happen to do the bin cleaning. So but yeah, it's an interesting thing, and but I also think it's led to getting referrals. I think reviews are huge. You've got what 1,500. I've got about 900 or 1,000. but I think getting referrals is a huge thing. We ask for referrals in our communications, and we try to be proactive versus reactive. How do you handle that in communication methods, like getting ahead of it, ahead of it, if you will?
Well, let's look at a weather delay as an example. Um, Rather than just not showing up and rescheduling them, we send a text message. And one part of our onboarding is, you're going to get a text message and an email reminder the night before we come. And if you get those reminders, we are coming. There are certain times, whether it's weather or an equipment breakdown or maybe a personnel issue, there are times, albeit rare, that we are not able to make that service happen. When that happens, we will text you and let you know that we're not coming and when we are coming. And so when we get a weather delay, because we've set that up, if something surprises us and we aren't able to clean and we have to reschedule, which happens not often, but occasionally, then when they get those text messages, it's actually reassuring to them that we're just doing what we said we were going to do. And we make sure that we do exactly that. We're proactive about, hey, we're not going to be there today. We apologize, but we'll be there in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And this is the best that we can do at this point. And I think in the time that I've been doing this, um, I think I've had maybe two that have had an issue with that type of reschedule because we're communicative. We're proactive about how we communicate from the start, which then sets up, hey, you know what? We're not perfect, but we are going to do this for you.
And I'd rather spend 20 minutes sending out a bunch of emails than 40 minutes replying to phone calls or answering phone calls. Are you guys coming? Are you guys coming? Are you guys coming? Because it's a bad look. And
Yes.
so, if nothing else, when they call, you can say, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. We sent an email. Maybe it got into your spam, but
Yep.
we're coming, whatever." And then they're probably going to check and they'll see it that it's there. But
Yep.
I think that's super important is to get
Right.
ahead of it for sure.
I agree.
Nothing ever
So
happens.
so let me ask you this because we all have them. I call them the 10, and we Lisa and I joke about, oh, they're one of the 10. Who's that customer that is never happy? What do you do with them?
You've got a couple options, right? I mean, you can just continue with status quo, and you could just go, and you can always talk to that person, and every other month you're going to get a call about something, and da da da. That's an option. The other option, obviously, is to just let them know that here's what we're doing. Or, where can we do things differently? Ask them for their input because they may have an answer, and you may or may not agree with it. You may or may not have thought of it, or you may not think it's important to the equation. But if you involve them in the solution, and I think that helps with the employees as well. Here's a problem I'm having. How can you help me fix it? And same thing with the client. Well, I just don't know why they can't put them on the left side of the house. Oh, okay, no problem. Well, how about if we put a sticker on them? I'll put an extra sticker and say left side, and then I'll put a note here. Is it going to happen again? Probably, because the guys kind of get on autopilot, and we'll try our best. And then the other option is you don't have to work with them any longer. You could just say, I guess it's, I apologize. I guess it's just not going to work out, and we're going to have to, we're just not going to be able to service you anymore. I try not to do that one, right? I mean, that seems, we're not, nothing here is life or death. That I think we can figure out an answer around it, and figure it out. But sometimes it's that. Anybody that screams at my people, that's a no-brainer. We're done. Thank you. Not thank you, but we're just done. I mean, it's not necessary. So that's how we handle it. I can't think off the top of my head of really ever firing anybody. And then we do. Did you ever watch the movie Office Space?
No.
So it's like this B movie, not very popular. It's got Jennifer Aniston in it, but the premise is they're in an office and they watch, and you see all the different people that are in an office. So there's this one guy that's just, I don't know, he's useless and he collates and he wants music and he's got a stapler, and they said they're getting ready to let people go, and they said in such and such, I forget what his name is, he was supposed to have been fired 3 years ago or let go, but they never turned off his checks, so he kept getting paid and he kept coming in and everything was fine. And so the manager goes to these consultants, so what did you do? He goes, we just fixed the problem. What did you do? Well, we just stopped the checks, so he won't be getting checks anymore. So they went, their confrontational method was to just shut down the payment and no longer pay him. So of course he shows up next Friday and goes, oh, I'm having a problem with my paycheck here and I would like to see, and they had to tell him that he was fired or whatever. But long story short is, you could do that and you could just take him off the list. But I mean, I think that's a pretty shady way to do it. So if you have to, you just got to let them know it's just not going to work out for us, and what have you. But it's very rare. I mean, I can't think of we've ever done it. So, how about service complaints? Because that does happen from time to time. What's your process on service complaints?
Again, if we get a complaint, and well, this happened yesterday. The job gets marked done and we've moved on, and we get a text message saying, hey, my cans are still out front. They haven't been cleaned. What's going on? We turn someone around and we get them there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's really inconvenient, but I want to, and most of the time when that happens, I try to do it myself. I try to go on my own. Okay. Not so much anymore because I'm not necessarily in a truck,
right?
But I do want to, I may send a different guy out than the one that was originally there. Yesterday, it was in a neighborhood that we're in that we do a ton of stops in, and he was still in the neighborhood. And I just called him and said, hey, will you go back and see what's going on? He went back. The cans were in front of the house now. He'd cleaned some different cans. He cleaned them. He talked to the customer and made it all right. And the customer texted me and said, thank you so much. What a great guy you have. And I mean, that's the thing, is we look at complaints as an opportunity. Yes. And I think that's what makes the difference. Is for us, it's an opportunity to shine, and we don't take any of it personal. We have a thick skin.
And you have to. I mean, in any service industry, you have to. And I think our most common complaint that we get is, well, you didn't do you didn't do our bins, and we've gotten to the point now where if it's a no bin, no answer, we call it in our little thing, it's a no. We're having them take the pictures. And like I tell the guys, I said, to be fair, it's not like we're not going to still go back and do it. It's just going to be and I don't want to say it's passive aggressive because it's not meant for that either, but it's meant to show our hand, quote unquote, where we took a picture and you can see that they're not at the garage and they're not at the street. Boom. And it's got the GPS time and all that jazz. And is it inconvenient to do? Yes. Do we do it? We don't do it for clean bins or anything like that. If we've done the job, we don't do that because that would take too long. But on the occasion where we have, 2 or 3 a day where there's a no, we'll take the picture and we'll post it up there. Now, does that mean we don't go back next week? No, we still go back next week, to get it squared away. Now, if it happens a lot and we start to look down through the notes and it happens every 3 months or every 2 months, at some point they have a hand in the equation. We've got to figure out what is the problem. Like, how can we, But at the same time, we can't change all of our processes for one person. And we've had people do that. Well, can you text me this? So some people, we work from home. I'm on a call. Can you give us a 20-minute warning? Well, actually, we can. So what we'll do is on the list, it'll say Ben Magee dash, the last name dash text 20 minutes. And then as they're looking through the list, they'll go, oh, there's Magee. I'll be there in about 20 minutes. I hit it. So that way they can, at their convenience, go, run the bins to the street if they have to or what have you. So it's not ideal, but we do handle the one-offs a little bit, but we're not willing to change our complete processes for everybody on a whim either. So how about billing disputes? Do you get a lot of those?
We have one recently. A client has decided that instead of putting a card on file, which is how we run our business, and they decided that they were going to start writing checks, and I'd go get the mail and here'd be a check. And then suddenly it's a quarterly customer and suddenly they're a quarter behind. And, it's like, guys, we can't continue down this path because it just doesn't fit in the business model. And so, I sent a really nice email and, they wouldn't take the calls because they know that that's what we're calling about. And so I just sent a really nice email and said, look, here's our business model. We understand that it's not for everyone. If there's not a card on file, we're not going to be able to continue down this path. And I think that as long as you communicate and you can give them what your issue is, why it's an issue, and ask them to help you solve it, then, like you said, they do have a part in the equation. And it's simple enough. In the time I've been doing this, I think we have terminated 2 customers, but it was for, like you said, one of them was just abusive to a team member, and the other one was abusive toward exactly this. We were there 4 times and never got paid. And there was always a complaint and and I just went, you know what, this just doesn't work for us. And so I think that you run into some of those, but billing disputes, we don't have a lot of. My take on that is, we let them go. We charge after the service is complete. We do have cards that fail that we have to go and take care of. And a certain amount of those don't get taken care of. We give them one service. If it doesn't happen, then we just say, you know what, we're not coming back until this is paid. And so there's no sense in creating and chasing them and creating any issues. I just don't believe that that's in our best interest or theirs.
Well, it's going to cost you money to perhaps not get money. So,
right.
Yeah, we handle the check thing. I think we only have a few people that are on a check situation. And the only way we'll consider that is to just take a year. You'll pay for the year up front. And then we just have a tickler a month out of their renewal to, one of the customer service reps will jump on and it'll be part of their task to go ahead and secure the next year's payment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how we handle that. The only checks we take are really for pressure washing and stuff like that. But even those,
which is what we do, commercial accounts, basically.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I appreciate this conversation. I would say that, one thing that I think we hit everything. And I think that, the takeaway from this, if I was trying to narrow this down to one thing, it would be exactly what we said in the first part, which is just take care of your customers and they'll take care of you. So
100%. Wise man, Mr. Magee. Awesome. Well, this has been a good episode. I appreciate your time. And if you like the content, please comment and like and subscribe. We'd love to have you part of our listening crowd going forward. So thank you so much. And you have a great week, Ben. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
Right, take care.
We'll see you next time.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.